Hey guys, it's me, obviously. Wanted to make a video to talk briefly about something and then share a piece that I did, that I just wrote in the past few days here. So I've realized recently, like after a couple things that have happened, and I knew this already, but a lot of what is going on in slam poetry and spoken word, mostly slam, like competitive spoken word, a lot of what is being brought to the table by people, I guess in general, but a lot of youth poetry now is very restricted, which is not necessarily a negative thing. Like, the poetry is really good, and like there are some crazy good poets and like super talented but a lot of them are writing about very similar subjects, and they're approaching them in different ways. But I think that there's a general feeling of what I write about needs to be important. And I think, to me, if you have something, it doesn't need to be important to other people necessarily. It just needs to be important to you. And obviously, if you're writing a poem about it, it matters enough to you that it's important. Like, if other people get that, that's awesome. And like, that's what you're trying to convey with your poetry, is like the importance of this and how it relates to other things and all of that. But I think I've noticed that a lot of what is being brought to competitions is pretty closely related, and it's very general, which is not necessarily bad. And like, it's super, super, super important for people, especially youth, like our generation, to be talking about things on a national and global scale, like race relations and gender relations. But I don't support people writing about that just because it's like a safe zone, like people challenging things safely, because like being avant-garde and like really going into this one subject is safe because you know that people will react to it. It's going to be a gut reaction. I feel like people are going for shock value, and I'm not a supporter of shock value. So, obviously people feel a lot of different ways about that, but I just think I really react more strongly to when people bring pieces about personal experiences, and personal opinions, rather than just talking about issues to talk about them. So that's kind of what this piece is about. Whether or not you agree with my opinion. Yeah, so it doesn't have a title. Okay, so this is that. Reading off of the screen, please excuse awkward face making. Okay. They say, write what you know, but I did, and you didn't want to hear it, didn't want to hear about bad sex and the physical manifestation of my poor overworked brain, but I don't really know anything else. Just learned things from textbooks and documentaries, but those are not the true stories of cracking front steps and poorly repressed memories. See, I am no disadvantaged downcast raised by a single mother who learned how to read from the priest who was her only father figure, but the privilege my melanin has bestowed upon me should not belittle the words that I write, should not give you an excuse to ignore the fire in my eyes, because I may not dwell on the lush literary illusions found between slavery and entry-level service positions, but I do know that we spend billions of dollars on weapons of war while refusing to stop wars that our government deems obsolete, fought by armies that are raping women and killing their possibilities to reproduce with the disease that we still blame on men who want nothing more than equality and the right to share a bed, but you just want to hear about the hot topic. topics. The issues gone over in high school debate clubs that I could never make time for because I know that sometimes finding your happiness is more important than college-sanctioned free time. But I still can't seem to find mine, ending the day with only one earring and a car stereo that always seems to be playing the mixtape that you may have lost, but you don't want to hear about that. You want to be moved to tears by some girl's story about locker room profanity rolling off of bodies whose true beauty lies in their confidence, and you want to be reassured by the fact that real girls have curves, but my tendency towards the undertow makes you uncomfortable. And I'm sorry if my mental illness is an inconvenience. If my disease clenches your teeth, leaves you hesitant to applaud my evident yet hardly commendable courage, because you say right what you know, but you didn't want to hear about last Saturday night and then the sunlight that found its way through my made-up eyes as I lay in the bed of a boy who doesn't mind my lies, but you weren't expecting ready confessions and strong-willed defenses. You wanted to hear about rape victims and race culture and things that safely push your boundaries, not this R-rated mashup of familial disappointment and poorly forged self-confidence, but they say right what you know, and I don't know how to be anything else.